Well, why don't we get started, and then Angie, let us know if you see we have a
Yeah, of course.
majority. So I hope everybody's got the handouts, and thank you. It's last month we missed because of the weather, so maybe today was sort of delayed a little bit by the weather, but the agenda for today is welcome if we have some new members that are present. We'll do that. We'll go through our minutes from December 5th, if there's any amendments to it or comments. And then we're going to talk about some of the things we meant to talk about, our goals or processes, report back on state director interviews, scheduling the correctional institution visits, and a letter we sent out to Rochelle Rubin at Labor, and then the discussion of our work groups. A summary of what they've done, and then there's a House Bill 877 that was just recently introduced by Ampry that we sent. It's attached to the email for this meeting. So, is there anything else on the agenda we need to add before we get started? Okay. Do we have any new commission members or first-time members, people here on the call?
Not today.
Not today? Okay. So if you have, I guess it's kind of hard to approve the minutes without a quorum. But maybe we should discuss it anyway. Does everybody get a chance to take a look at the minutes and see if there are any corrections or changes to the minutes or additions of things we missed? We try to be pretty thorough. Okay. No comments or anything. So I presume then that we either quoted people direct properly or not quoted them, but paraphrased them, and that we've been fairly complete. If there are no objections, we'll go on, and we can't really approve the minutes until we get a quorum. But if as soon as we get that a number, we'll try to go back and do that. So we sent out some handouts. So for the first one is a document. One of the Delegate Pasteur, I think, was the one who asked, what are we going to do? What's the process? So what we tried to do is explain that the process for us is as a commission to meet to oversee all activities that goes on, and then to also create a stakeholders group, which is in the law, which becomes the work group, and they will go about meeting and looking at data and requesting data and come up with recommendations back to the commission. So we have instituted that. We've had several meetings. The idea is that we will work toward a report on all the relevant areas of correctional education. We have to do a preliminary report by the 1st of June. So I think we're moving along pretty well in that direction. And our focus, of course, is making recommendations on the delivery of services. So we try to keep that in mind. And with that, people are asking questions and about the particular, we broke into 3 groups. The stakeholders group, we broke into ABE, GED, special ed is one group, higher education is another group, and career technology and workforce development is the third group. And that encompasses all the education programs when we're at Labor and public safety, because public safety is in charge of coordinating post-secondary education. So those 3 groups have met, have been meeting, and we're going to continue to meet and we actually have minutes available. We sent out yesterday from those work groups. So some of those, I think we sent them out to everybody. Ainsley, did we send them out to everybody or just to the stakeholders?
Just to the stakeholders group, but once those are approved, we can put them on the website, we can send them out to everybody, we can do whatever.
many of you are on these work groups, and so you've probably seen those notes, those minutes. And so we had taped everything, and Ainsley and I went over them and made sure that we were fairly complete. And with under Judith Lichtenberg is our chair of the stakeholders group, so we worked very closely with her. She helped us edit some of the minutes because our writing is not always what it should be, and she's been very helpful with that. And so we will continue to do it. So the process that I'm trying to, we have a document that lays it out. The process that I tried to outline is that the commission oversees everything. The stakeholders do the nitty-gritty work. They meet every 2 weeks, and their subgroups may meet even more frequently. And so Ainsley and I have been trying to keep up with them and keep track of everything that they're doing. So so there are 2 documents that we gave you. One is called Goals and Process of the Prison Education Delivery Reform Commission. And then another one is called The Purpose of the Commission Advisory Stakeholder Group, because we had a question about what the purpose was of all of our work. And of course, it's to take a look at how education is delivered and to make recommendations to improve that back to the governor and to the legislature. So that's my summary of what these documents mean. So there's a process that takes place that Ainsley has got the document, the major document up there on the screen. And so are there any questions on how we're proceeding with this and how this works? Does it make sense, or is it too complicated, or what are your feelings on all this? Is it working? Because many of you have been involved with it. Ann's giving a thumbs up. So does everybody generally feel that the process is working and going forward? Okay. And also,
absolutely.
Okay, thank you. And that I hope everybody feels included. I want to make sure everybody feels they have a part in this, that it's all explicit, everybody knows what's going on, and that we're going out there objectively looking for information and data, and trying to figure out what it means. And so go ahead. So somebody have some comments to make about the process, please. I'd like to hear how you feel about it.
This is Alyssa Fio from the Public Defender's Office. I'm an education attorney there. I just had a question. I feel like the process has been very comprehensive, and I appreciate the kind of openness and opportunity to, hear people's perspectives and their own kind of work experience and how it impacts this mission. One question was, will we touch on, or will you talk about how this process impacts or informs HB 877? It's my first time looking at it, and I was seeing that it extends significantly the timeline. And so just wondering if at some point we can talk about how that, you're moving at a fast pace, which is excellent, and will hopefully lead to some change. But HB 877 seems to push it all out like 3 years. So I was just wondering, can we at some point touch on the why of that and how that impacts the possible plan that you've put forward?
Yeah, so we have that on the agenda at the end, and quite frankly, 877 just came up very quickly. Delegate Ampry introduced it, and has asked for some feedback from the governor's office on it. So we're going to talk about that a little bit,
Okay.
and what that might mean. Because the bill, if you read it, doesn't tell you exactly what it changes, other than timeline.
Right. That was my question. So when we're talking about the plan, it's
Yeah.
relevant, right? So that's why I was asking. Okay.
So we'll definitely talk about that. Okay. And I had nothing to do with it. I mean, this is Delegate Ampry's and doing, and I've been asked about it, but I'm not the one who initiated this, so just want to make that clear. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So, where are we on the agenda? Let's see. Let me get my agenda back out here. So, if everybody's understands the goals and processes, and so let's go to the report on the state directors of correctional institution interviews. And I want Ainsley to fill in if I missed something. We have at this point interviewed 5 state directors. Yesterday we did California. Previously we had done Oregon, North Carolina, Texas, and Ohio. And we tried to get them to tell us about, how they're doing and what issues and problems they're having, and their achievements and accomplishments, their certificates that they're giving out, et cetera, and whether they had any suggestions about the best way to deliver correctional education, ways to improve. We did ask them about their organization within the states. For example, Texas is an independent school district and has been like that for, I bet you 50 years, because as long as I've been involved, and goes back to the early days when I first became acquainted with Texas. They were a school district, and so the teachers work in the facilities. They work for a school district, but under the supervision of corrections. And Ohio has a Ohio Central School System.
I don't want to turn my camera on.
I'm sorry. Somebody asked a question.
That's Mary Gable talking.
Mary. Okay, I thought. All right, I see. Okay, so Ohio has the Ohio Central School System, which is part of the Department of Public Safety, and they work within public safety at a very high level. The superintendent of schools ranks up there with, the assistant secretaries kind of level, and they supervise all the programs throughout the adult system. In both cases, Texas and Ohio, they call their director superintendent of schools. California, who we talked to yesterday, also calls their director superintendent of schools, and they've done something similar. They moved up correctional education into the division of programs, so that they're up there at a division level, and there are 3 major programs that I recalled. Mental health would be one, or they have a different name for it, social services and things, and then they have substance abuse and education, and so that they rank up at the top in that structure. That's more recent. That was done in the last 10 or 15 years, and so then Oregon has a model where the colleges are very powerful, and the person in the central office is a coordinator of all these efforts. So they do a lot of work with community colleges, and it's more of a coordinative role. North Carolina, it's again is a superintendent of schools, and within the Department of Corrections, and at a higher level. So they all felt that in order to get their job done, they really needed to have a seat at the leadership level, and in order to carry out their mission, because there are many missions that corrections has. Security is the major other issue, and then all the programs within those programs are substance abuse and mental health and other services. They're all important, and we can't forget that. So that's kind of what we've gleaned from them. We've also seen things about they're having trouble with COVID, like everybody else did, and they're bouncing back. Some bounce back better than others, and from the COVID experience. They have staffing problems at the correctional officer level, as well as teaching levels. They in California, they have like 25%, I think, staff shortage teachers. Part of it has to do with where in the state the prisons are located. So there are issues that they have that are similar to the ones that we go through. Ainsley, would you want to add anything to, we're going to try to summarize these visits a little more in detail and get them out to you, but anything else that I've missed that you think of?
Yeah, so first of all, we have reached a quorum. Yay. So we can approve those minutes whenever. And like I think just to summarize, the two biggest issues that we're seeing is staffing and space, which I think is reflected in our conversations that we've had with the work groups. And the two biggest successes that I think a lot of people are reflecting is, like Dr. Stir said, is having a high up level in the Department of Corrections, so they're able to, coordinate well with the people at the Department of Corrections, as well as technology, having laptops, tablets, all of that sort of thing that incarcerated individuals can, check out, take back to their cells, things like that. So technology is also something that we're looking at.
Yeah, and that's one of the things that everybody's grappling with, trying to make that happen more and more. And staff development was another issue that came up, that Ohio and California in particular do a lot of staff development to keep people up to. Some of them have in California, there's a way to certify adult schools, and all the prison schools are certified as adult schools. We don't have that in Maryland. So that's another thing that, might want to look at. I mean, that would require separate legislation in and of itself, but because adult education is not always accepted widely as a legitimate system, or, in some states, it's like California, it's been that way for a while, but adult education is left to the community colleges or and other groups, volunteer groups, church groups, and we don't have a certification process. So the quality varies tremendously. So if there is a certification process to say that, they meet these standards or whatever, that's always a good thing to have, but we don't have that in Maryland. And that's not a criticism, that's just a reality. I mean, that's pretty much around the country, if anybody's been involved with adult ed for a while. So, I'm just trying to think of one of any other salient features, but the push for technology is really big, and COVID's facilitated that quite a bit. Because I'll tell you, previous to COVID, the biggest argument corrections had was, we don't want people with laptops because of security issues with the internet, and that was a big issue to solve, and it is very solvable now. Then the states have all come up with that because they can firewall things.
Right.
They can just have a Wi-Fi that goes nowhere but in that system. All kinds of ways to make sure that people aren't going out doing gang communication. That's the big issue, or going out looking at pornography. Those are the two things that they did not want people doing. But if they can talk to their teachers, communicate with their teachers via email or text, and send schoolwork back and forth, I mean, that's like being in the public sector, and that would be a tremendous boon. The one other thing I think that we got out of is that they are not replacing teachers. They're trying to make them more powerful. None of them have said that we're going to have fewer teachers because we have more technology. So I hope that this group, I'm being very selfish here because I'm a teacher. I taught and I feel the value of teachers, but people on the outside will often say, oh, we can put committers in there, we don't have to hire so many teachers. But, in corrections, they really need people, because correctional students they don't have the initiative because they don't come from a situation where education was maybe so valuable, or they ran away from it because they had trouble. We need people, and people, I think Gordon can tell you that from his stories, knows that it's the interaction of people that is most important here. And the more we can facilitate that with technology. So I think that's a message we got to. Okay.
Gordon has his hand up.
Go ahead, Gordon.
We can't.
Silence.
Technology changes so much. It would have to be updated. If we're looking at things, trying to get a better system inside the prisons to help with that, and we're looking at technology, it has to be updated every so often, and that costs money. Is there any way we can find out how other states have tackled this particular issue, what cost was associated with it? That might give us a little more, oomph to really address this issue.
I can tell you how much it is. I've already priced it out and applied for a grant, and I'm waiting to hear back whether we got the funding to do our own segmented education Wi-Fi network. But the colleges already have laptops that are connected back into the college's network. So then they can talk to their instructors when they're not there, and send and receive assignments back and forth and papers and such. So our colleges already have that access to do that.
Still a little indirect. I can say I'm teaching at JCI this semester. I've been teaching there for 10 years, and this semester, I think for the first time that I've been aware of, I can see their work online, but it seems to all go through the administration of the UB program. That is, I can't just email or contact a student directly.
That shouldn't be that way. So I
Really?
don't know if that's something with your thing, because they've been doing it since 2019 before COVID. It's like a one-to-one connection from the college to the laptops. It's a firewall VPN Wi-Fi that we connect straight into their University of Baltimore's network. So if it's not working on your end, then that's something I need to know so we can figure out why it's not working on your end.
I will verify what's going on. Thanks.
And University or Bowie State is our first one this spring to pilot using Origin's LMS network. So then they can connect in to Canvas, Blackboard, whatever the college uses, to be able to do virtual classes, because they do hybrid classes. Classes are either in person. All of our colleges are either in person or virtual. And then so then they can do all that stuff off of the LMS network also, and assignments, and they do advising through that. They do financial aid virtually, all that stuff.
Okay.
So,
But there,
again,
I'm going to have Ann ask a
$12
question.
million, Steve. I can tell you how much it is. $12 million
million.
to set up a segmented education network. I just applied for a $12 million. Now, 10 of that is the education network. The other 2 is staff for the 5 years to actually, because you need someone to maintain it. So,
Right. And we in fact, probably go back and ask those questions. We want to go back and survey the state directors. One of the is questions is what funding they use. In some cases, they're able to use public school funding because they're a school district that, funds are available throughout the state. Some of it's adult ed funding, Perkins money, and some of the, there's not much federal money. God knows what's going to happen to that in the next year or two. But so, we need to get some. But the other thing about technology is now, and I want to go to Ann's question, but Danielle is mentioning post-secondary, and a lot of this, Ohio and California as an example, they go to school and they have laptops in school, and they can work on the laptops there with the teacher in the room and all that, but they can't take them back. And they're working toward doing that, where they have housing units where they're beginning to install hot Wi-Fi and have those possibilities, or be able to go to the library and do it, or in centers where the people meet and do social activities. So they're working on that because they want to extend it to the adult basic ed program as well as technology, career technology. So the colleges are ahead in terms of what they're doing with technology, but they're coming along otherwise, so. Ann, you had a hand up.
Yes, I was just asking if if this technology was available first for them to take back to their cell and work on their work in their rooms, and also if it was applicable to the GED and workforce programming as well as higher ed, or only higher ed.
I can always, so that we don't take time here, because I know we have a full agenda, answer that. But yeah, I can give you that stuff if you want to send it. I don't know, Steve or Ainsley, you're taking the notes, right? I can always send all that
My
stuff.
understanding from my students is they can't take the laptops back to their cells.
Right.
They
Not
have
the laptops, but
tablets
they have
there.
tablets that
But
they
that
can do.
doesn't, that doesn't have the same stuff on it.
It is. We are getting to that. We're working with the vendor to do that right now.
Mhm.
Okay. And it's, I think that's with as fast as that can happen, it'd be great, and I'm glad we're going in that direction. I'm glad we finally got over the security issue of you. They can't have laptops. People aren't afraid of them anymore. It's a matter of money and resources.
And just really quick, and the GD and ABE, they have tablets. So then they're able to do some of the tablet stuff in the education, but we have different tablets in education than we do in the housing units. And they are competitors that don't particularly like each other. So they don't like working together.
Yeah.
So it's a nightmare.
Okay. Are there any more questions? I don't see all the hands, but Ainsley, is anybody else?
Not that I can see.
Okay, then let's go. And we'll send information on the state director interviews. We're going to be doing one more in Maine. We're trying to schedule that. So,
Do we quickly want to approve the meeting minutes before we?
do we have a quorum?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Now that we have a quorum, and some people joined who didn't see that part, but we went through the minutes, and I hope that those who just joined us were able to read them. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the December 5th meeting?
I motion
to approve.
Okay. Are there any amendments or additions to those minutes that anybody would like to? Goodbye, Delegate Embry. Thank you so much for coming. Is there any amendments or suggestions or whatever about those minutes?
No.
Okay, with that, I take it no. So the minutes are therefore approved. And so we'll continue on with our agenda here. Scheduling correctional institution visits and public forums. Ainsley and Danielle, do you want to talk about that a little bit? Ainsley, you want to say where we wanted to go?
Yeah, so we have to talk to Danielle, obviously. We're going to meet later today and talk about it. Our goal is to meet and do some correctional institution visits during, I think, April and May, and then start doing public forums in June. Those public forums will be at different locations around the state. So on the Eastern Shore, Central Maryland, and Western Maryland, where there are a lot of prisons located. And that is required by the legislation that we are supposed to hold public forums. So we look forward to doing that in June and hopefully scheduling some correctional institution visits in April and May.
Okay. Danielle, any thoughts on the prison visits before? I mean, we'll talk about it later, but
No, yeah, we'll talk about it later. I think it'd be good if we definitely do the 3 regions, and since the prisons are so close together, we might even be able to hit, 2 or in a day or 3. So that's always a busy day, but it'll be good.
it's easier for you to say with your young legs than me. But anyway, some of those prisons are a little bit of a walk. We do have a request from lifers at Roxbury that wanted to talk with us, and so we made the major Maryland Alliance for Justice Reform. They have a group that and they're connected with the lifers. A lady named Ellen, I forget her last name right now, has requested that that we could communicate with them. They could write to us and all that, but we don't really have a post office box, and so we told her that if we want, we can maybe go to Roxbury and meet with the lifers. They want to know about what's going on with the commission. It's terrific, and so that's another aspect. So we intend to.
Just let me know, Steve, and if you have like a name of one of the lifers that is involved in the program,
No, we can get it from Ellen.
Yeah, get me that, and then I can set up to have that meeting while we're there. I think
Yeah,
Roxbury is definitely a good one to visit. That is one where we're having a lot of issues with shutdowns due to officer shortages, and so it would be good to hear from the IIs on
Right.
how that's affecting them.
Well, we'll do that. We can talk about that today later. That'd be good. So, okay. Any questions about visits? I know that there was a concern from Anita Weiss and other people on the Eastern Shore that we do pay attention to the Eastern Shore. And so we're going to try to probably do that with a forum if we don't get out there with a prison visit. For those of you who aren't familiar, from the Baltimore area to ECI is a good 2.5, 3 hours, maybe 2, as I recall, each way. And so it may require an overnighter, and to do it, or just get up early in the morning, go do it, and drive back late at night. But so it's a bit of a chore, as well as Cumberland going the other way is 2 hours either way. So we're gonna try to do as far out as we can. But ECI is particularly concerning because we're not going to have post-secondary education there right now at the rate we're going with Warwick Tech backing out. So that's a big concern. We need to address that as a commission, I think. Okay.
I had a question. I'm sorry about my voice, guys. I'm
Go
really
for it.
I had a question about scheduling. Are you guys going to put out like a poll, or is it just going to be, here's the schedule, join if you can? The only reason I'm asking is because you sort of mentioned that April, May time, and I know a lot of us in higher ed have at least NCHEP coming up and a couple other things that I know a lot of folks are going to go to. I'm assuming Danielle is. I know I'll be there.
They won't be scheduled during those times because I won't even be here either. So.
Okay.
I'll also talk to them about who they want to have in, because depending on who is going to depend on how we do figure out background versus if it's a one-time visit, can we just get approval, from the secretary, all that good stuff. So I'll make sure to ask them who we'd want on, so we can make sure to clear all that stuff beforehand. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, we're definitely going to allow the commission. I'm sure we can get some exception for people, maybe, hopefully. I think the public safety has been very cooperative on that.
Absolutely.
So, okay. So, the next item, letter to Rochelle Rubin, Director Rochelle Rubin. Each one of the work groups has met and come up with a wish list of data. And so we sent a letter, which everybody should have gotten a copy of, to Director Rochelle. And it's not a lot of time. I'm sure there may be some issue about getting so many answers, but these, in order to discuss issues having to do with adult basic ed and career technology and higher ed and what have you, there's a lot of data we need. And to paraphrase some of the questions, the first question was the number of students who passed the GED test with college-ready scores for each year. That should be fairly simple. We should be able to get that she should be able to get that from the GED testing office. And John, I mean, you may have some comments on all this. Please feel free. And people really wanted to see what the waiting lists were like, and so we asked for those for the last couple of years. The average amount of time on the waiting list per institution is a concern, because we've heard some places people's complaints indirectly, so they're not all verifiable complaints, but we need to look into them. That not necessarily getting into school or how long you have to wait. There's a big question about how many people who are incarcerated have a GED, and or a high school diploma for that matter. The percentage of incarcerated people who enter prison with a high school diploma is GED, as opposed to those who get it behind bars, is important, or enter with a post-secondary degree. Monthly number of special ed students, Alyssa has been very forceful, and I appreciate that we're going to have a lot of input from her on what to do when we look into special education and see how that's going. But how many special education students have we had enrolled? And we'd like to know enrollment versus attendance for the last couple of years. Numbers of school closures, because I mean, you can have a school schedule, but has it been open? We've just heard Roxbury's got problems with officers, and school closures. So the numbers of transition certificates, these are preparation programs for people who are going to be released, and how many people, they seem to be a lot fewer of these in the last couple of years. So we want to look into that. The library patron visits were really down. This is reporting from labor. So we want to know why. I mean, there might be good reasons for all this. Library internet searches, what's that all about? Seems to be an issue there. And LASSI requests. LASSI is the legal system for people to look into, to get help with their cases, because many people are appealing their cases or whatever. And so this is a legal thing that we have to make available, and those requests seem to be down. So I must say, give you an example, California, we noticed from their own self-reporting, has a real big attendance problem. And so it may be that if there is an attendance problem, that's explainable, that it's not the fault of anybody in particular, it's the system. In California, they have correctional officer shortages, they have teacher vacancies, people are out for medical reasons, people are out for court visits, what have you. So their attendance rate was in the 50%, I think, as average. And so their goal is to reach every student who doesn't have a high school diploma. And they're trying to do that, but their attendance rate is not good. We don't know what's going on in our system. And so these are all questions that have come up from the committee. So I hope when Rochelle sees this list, it's in the spirit of we need more information so we can do our work. We're not trying to dig up, who's and point fingers. We're trying to figure out what's going on. So John, I don't know, you've probably seen the letter by now, so I appreciate any thoughts you have on it.
Yeah, I saw the letter. Rochelle's already responded. We should be able to get all the information for you by the date requested. What I will say is that some of the information that you've requested is at our fingertips and very easy to provide in 24 hours. Some of the information is not centrally located, and we actually have to literally reach out to each individual school, such as wait lists. They're all held at each individual school in order to get that information. I will say that for some of the information that's requested, we haven't really specified a start and end date when we're talking about averages and things like that. So we're going to have to extrapolate some of the information that we have in order to provide answers for you. And it looks like you concluded the letter with 4 questions, which we're more than happy to elaborate on as well. But if you actually are looking for the reasons why we see the trends that we do for all of the actual data requests, I think there were a couple dozen different pieces of data that you were requesting.
Mm-hmm.
We're more than happy to look into providing a narrative for those as well. But I will tell you that Danielle and I go through this all the time. Anytime there's a data request, I know that you personally are not looking to point any fingers or anything like that, but a lot of the work that we do is certainly highly politicized, and any data that we do provide, we do seek approval for before providing it, only because it can be interpreted in a variety of ways that unfortunately is politically charged. We just want to make sure that we're as fair and as transparent as we can be with all the information that we provide. But for what it's worth, it looks like everything that you've requested, we shouldn't have a problem, at least preliminarily, providing for you in the time frame requested.
Okay, well, I appreciate that. And this request came from the committees. And so Angie and I summarized them into these bullets that you saw in the letter. So, and nobody, I must say, sitting in on these meetings, and you've been in on some of them, John, this is a pretty objective, hey, what we need to do something to figure out what's going on here. I was really happy when we looked at California. They really had this stuff hanging right out there. We don't have good attendance is wrong. And so it wasn't like they were hiding it. It was in their publication. So it can be politicized, as you say. I mean, all right, I hate to get political here, but I hear all this stuff about the $50 million in condoms that USAID is giving out. They forgot to say that they're fighting AIDS and disease, going on.
You got to put your quote fingers up when you say they forgot to mention that piece.
They forgot. Thank you. Yes, but it's data by itself can be interpreted in different ways. But if you get more data out and look at it objectively, you get down to something that is explainable, and then we can figure out how we can fix it. And that's what we're about. That's all we're about.
Yeah, and in the spirit of transparency, again, we haven't reached a point yet that we really need to scrutinize that. But I did want to make that disclaimer as we work through it, and it is a process that's in place on our end specifically for that reason.
Thank you, and I really appreciate that. You've been terrifically helpful and positive about all this stuff, and so when we get this information, we'll turn it back to the work groups and back to the commission. And we'll probably have plenty of discussion on it. But so Okay. So, and then we're down to, I guess, if there's any more, are there any more questions on the letter? Because we can talk about, we have people from our work groups on this, and looking at our time here too, we're at 45 minutes. So, if we want to go over, we've sent out the minutes from these work group meetings, and they're pretty extensive. We try to get everything that we possibly could in there. And then maybe rather than have people report on it, do we have any particular questions? I mean, the questions, if you read those notes, you'll see the implicit, all those bullets that came out of those meetings. So we try to summarize those. Judith, how about you taking a few moments and talking about, since you're chairing the work group, the stakeholders group, maybe talking about that a little bit. Would that be okay?
I don't know if I have anything to report about the work group. So we've divided, these committees get multiply like rabbits, it seems like. We have the ASG, the Advisory Stakeholder Group, which I'm the chair of. I am not on the commission, by the way. I'm just an interloper here. And then we've divided the ASG into 3 groups: the adult basic education, GED, and special ed group, the post-secondary group, and the career and workforce group. And each of those has met at least once and has, asked for certain data. We're waiting to get that. And is there anything else to report, Steve, that you can think of?
Well, no, because we could go into great detail, but since we gave many of the people who've been in the work groups, we gave the notes out for everybody. So, if there are any people who feel that something was missing from those, maybe this is time to say it. But after we finish this meeting, we'll stay on for a little bit with the work groups. People want to stay on with the work groups and talk about what's going on. So if you have any questions about the work groups or the work of it, or where we're headed with all this, please do it now, and I'll be glad to explain what's happening here. I'm hoping that people feel like they're involved in this, because we told you could be on any group you want. And John, for example, has been participating in almost everything, and that's terrific. And so is Danielle, which both departments, we have terrific participation. I must commend both of you for participating in this. Any questions or any suggestions on how we improve this or whatever? Yeah, you're right, though. We've created a bunch. It's like 2 rabbits. Now we got 15, and pretty soon we'll be running all over the house. So, okay, without any more, but let's talk about HB 877. If you have that bill, we sent it as an attachment. The purpose is extending the time for submission of the interim report and the final report to Prison Education Commission, extending termination date for the commission, and generally relating to prison education delivery. We were asked, and when I was asked by Delegate Amphrey earlier this week, really, or late last week, I immediately started talking with Ainsley about it. Ainsley's talking to the governor's office, which he works for, and we don't want to. We suggested to them that in a discussion that we still do the interim report and the January report, and that we thought maybe that the commission, a role would be, because it's supposed to last till the end of June of 2026. The commission will be in place, then the extension expires. So they add 3 years to that. So what would be a role for the commission? And assuming that there's some legislation that comes out of this, then what happens? So maybe the commission could take on a function of monitoring, or whatever comes out of that it gets implemented. So that'll be the kind of discussion that comes up in hearings when they do this bill. What more specifically So in the meantime, we have a mandate that's been passed and signed by the governor. This is a bill, so we're not going to change any of our activities. And then by the end of the session, we'll know if we do have to change, some of the timelines or numbers of report when the reports are. But right now, we're going to work as if that's not going to happen until we hear otherwise. So that's where we are. So I guess it was Alyssa you had the question about that, or who asked the question about the?
Yeah, I did. I just wanted to know how this bill would potentially change how the commission is currently operating, or how the work groups would be operating, and would it delay recommendations and that kind of, we're working quickly and intensely, I think, right now, right?
Mhm.
And so it's unclear to me, and again, I just read this bill this morning. It's unclear to me what the goal behind the bill is. Is it to give the commission more time to do a more extensive, or is it to do the monitoring, or you know what I mean? It's just unclear to me what the purpose. I can see an extension of time. 3 years seems considerable. And so that's why I didn't understand how it wouldn't potentially impact the plan as you've rolled it out at the start of the meeting.
We do also have Delegate Ampre's Chief of Staff here, Ian Genove. I'm sorry if I mispronounced your last name, if he wants to chime in.
Hey, Anthony. Hey, everybody. Good morning. So initially, the purpose for why we put this bill out was just to give the commission time to get whatever you all need to do, in an adequate amount of time, considering that we're kind of aware how work groups and commissions start off slow. And that's what happened with some of our work groups. And, we offered this on the table in case y'all do ever need it. This isn't to just force down y'all's throat. It's really just an option for y'all to take if you want it. And we'd rather have it and not need it than need it and then not have it. You know what I mean? And so this is there, but it's really just for you all as a tool to use in case y'all come up with more things that y'all need and need more time on. And so yeah, we have it there on the table. And our vision also is to make sure that we have, in case y'all do need more time, we have it there already. And then at some point we can even authorize some sort of new powers or new duties and responsibilities. But that's all going to come through y'all's decision rather than from us. So. But we definitely didn't want to overstep our bounds here. But we're just here to help in any way we can. But that's essentially the purpose of this bill.
So what you're saying is, if this commission just wants to take a look at this bill, make a recommendation back to you about the bill, about the commission and its function and its longevity, that we should do so. That we should take this on. You're sort of requesting we do that back to you as a commission. Okay. Is that what you're saying?
Exactly. Yes. Yep. And I would say, and I know time is of the essence here and it's a little last minute, but forgive us. There's a lot of things going on in this office, but yeah, whatever y'all need us to do, we're more than happy to have it. But as a collective group, if that's what you all feel, and keeping this bill and making alterations to this bill, anyways y'all want, let us know. We'll go through it and we'll be happy to, get in front of the committee and get it done.
Okay. We appreciate that. So Alyssa, does that kind of answer your question? And then, okay. And then the other concerns, I will say that and I don't know if David Domenici is on this call, or somebody else from from the youth services, that their commission looked at and created a school district for juvenile services, and then that kept a kind of there's a monitoring function that's going on afterward to make sure things are coming along. So there is some precedence for what the commission might do or not do from some other examples. So we can take a look at that and maybe talk to that. We can add that as an agenda item. Maybe we'll keep HB 877 as an agenda item as we go along, so that we definitely will speak to it and see how we feel as a group. I, for one, really want to put out an interim report. It's not going to be a full-bodied kind of thing, but I want to put 5 or 10 pages together, because I think we've done a lot of work, and some of that work is very notable, that ought to be spoken to and shown out, people beyond the commission and stakeholders. The specific recommendations that we come up with won't be until the end of the year. It's due January 1st of 2026. So we'll have 6 months in between the June report, 6 or 7 months, to really put flesh on the bone, so to speak, and come up with very specific things. Is that enough time? I don't know. For our work, we'll see. Okay. So Ian, I think we're moving along pretty quickly. My sense of it, and then, is we're doing a lot of work fast, even though we started late. I can't tell you how energetic some of these people are, and I really appreciate the delegate of having had the foresight to put together this commission to help us. I think we're going forward positively. We're not looking to find fault. We're looking to find ways to improve, because we believe that the people working, at least I do for sure, the people working in these agencies are doing their best. And if there's issues, a lot of stuff is beyond our control, or maybe we can change it, but we're going to take a good look at it in a positive way, for the benefit of our citizens who are, incarcerated as well as those on the street. So does anybody else want to speak to this, to Ian? Ian's been terrific as chief of staff for Delegate Ampry, and take some time if you want to say something to him. I really appreciate it, because I think he had the REAP bill too, which deals with the higher education issues, and that passed as well last year. And so I know that's an important bill to get all the data put into place. And I know Danielle's working hard. Danielle, maybe you want to talk about the REAP bill and what you're doing for Ian?
Sure. First, really quick on this, can I make a suggestion on what maybe we can all take this back, look over it, look at the timeline? I do agree with, was that you, Alyssa, who was saying that 5 years seems like a lot, whoever said that. And that, yeah, we are getting a lot done, but I also don't want to rush it either, so 3 years, give us maybe, but it just does seem like, so maybe everybody can take a look at this, look at the original bill, and then kind of what we've been doing, and then send you and Ainsley a kind of a little what they think about it. I don't know, just an idea. But anyways, REAP bill, yes. So we are, prior to that bill coming out last session, due to the implementation of Pell Grants for incarcerated individuals, that began back in, the regulations were put out in fall of 2022, and then the July 1, 2023, it went into effect, where colleges could then apply to the during whatever the state process is, and then Department of Ed for that approval to become what's called a PEP, a prison education program for the colleges. We started that process literally. I came on board, DPSCS came over from labor in July of 2022 and found out about all that stuff literally as soon as I got on board. Started doing a stakeholder group, which is required by the law, of a bunch of different, so many high level people. It's a great stakeholder group, but they approve all the applications of all the colleges coming by the fence, including our current colleges. What a lot of people don't know is that if they are currently behind our fence as a Second Chance Pell is going away, or really has gone away. They have to then reapply as a prison education program through the same process as a new college coming behind the fence to stay behind the fence. And if they get approved by the Department of Ed, which, by the way, that approval process is about a year and a half process. It is very extensive. A lot of the people were just recently approved that started that in July 1 of 2023. It's taking a good bit of time to get through that. Not so much our process, the MHEC approval, our stakeholder approval, and the accreditation middle states, that's where a lot of people are getting hung up. It's the middle states and then the Department of Ed approval. So those are what take the longest. So we started the process of getting that stakeholder group together, getting a standard operating procedure and all that. And one of the things that we talked about was we need a data system. Like that was before the repo even came out. We said we have to be able to see who's all in the classes, where they are each semester, who has what grade point average, because Pell depends on grade point average, who's coming to classes, whether they're getting the services that's required by the law, all that good stuff. I originally was going to put into our budget last year for like $2 million to buy an awesome like data system, but then of course, our head of administration came back and said, hey, you know this thing called Smartsheets, which we already have a contract with, which if you're familiar with Smartsheets and you've ever been on the other side, which is the creating like the actual system for people to put their data in, it's actually pretty robust and cool. A lot of the different federal agencies use it. Well, if they're still going to be there, you know, actually, but a lot of them use it for you to take and like input data and stuff for like grants and things. So there will be different levels for where I'm working on now. I got the mock-up from Smartsheets here about 2 months ago, right before the holidays. So that kind of, you know, jammed things up for a little bit, but basically every single person who does anything for the higher ed college will have a security level in Smartsheets where they can go in, put their related data. I'll be able to see everything in real time. They will be locked out if they don't have it in by a certain date. The director of the college will have a certain permission level too. It is really great. But the big thing with Ian, really quick,
We're
Steve,
running out of time now.
Okay. Really big thing that I want him to know is we started the FAFSA online, which is a requirement of the bill way before the bill came out. So they're able to do FAFSA online. All of our colleges are. So just to let you know.
Okay, so I suggest, I mean, if you haven't done so, I mean, I don't know what the process is for you to talk to the Delegate Amprey's office, but Ian, maybe you can request just an update if you need it for the REAP bill or something. And Danielle has been terrific with data availability. So but I want the delegate to know that both the REAP bill and the commission are coming along very nicely, and we appreciate his initiative in this area. We've reached our end of our hour. I don't want to keep people anymore. And if there's any more, so we're going to try to keep anybody who wants to talk about their work groups for a few minutes, maybe 10 or 15 minutes afterward. We'll do that, and because we have another meeting at 11 with Danielle about the prison visits. So, are there any suggestions or questions or from the commission regarding today's meeting, or things we're missing or we need to do? So, Ian, you have your hand raised.
Yeah, no, I was just gonna get back to you all and say thank you all so much for the work. Danielle, thank you so much for the work on overseeing the rebuild and you know, doing all that, and especially with what's going on in the federal government. I think, you know, our vulnerable people also need y'all now more than ever, and we really appreciate the work that y'all doing, that the collective and similar vision that you know we have together. I think we'll get this done, and you know, we got to step up when people are slack on the other side. So yeah, I really appreciate all the hard work y'all doing. I'll make sure the delegate is aware of what's going on. So thank you all.
Thank you for joining us today. So, Gordon, Gordon, you have your hand up, or somebody else?
Yeah, my understanding is that this meeting was supposed to go to 11. And you said something else starting at it. This ends now, and another
We
one
have a
starts.
meeting at 11. We usually work, this meeting goes 45 minutes or an hour for the commission. And then we were just going to carry over for those who wanted to talk about, the work groups, the stakeholders. So, okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't want to put out a 2-hour meeting out there. Boy, that'll scare people away. You know?
But I thought you just said there's another meeting at 11.
Yeah, Danielle and Ainsley and I have a meeting about the prison visits.
Okay, so
They're
not
working
for the rest of us. Okay.
Right. So just want to let you know what we're up to. So if there's no other suggestions or comments, I'd just like to ask for a motion to adjourn the meeting, and then we're going to transition for those who want to stay to talk about the stakeholder work groups. So is
I
there a
to
motion?
adjourn.
Okay, second?
Second.
Okay, well, thank you all once again for your great participation. And we're going to go to the work groups, for those who are staying with us, just take a 30-second break or something and then start that, okay? So anybody wants to stay, stay. These are open meetings. And, you know.
Thank you. I would love to chat more, but we got bills to submit by the deadline today. So, but we'll definitely hear back from you all at some point. Thank you all.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you. It was good to see you.
Good to see y'all. Thank you. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you, and Delegate, for all you're doing. Thanks.
Thank you.
Yeah, and so Renee is staying on for Delegate Pasteur. That's terrific. So. Judith? So you're in charge of the work group. So I don't know, maybe if you want to ask the chairs who are here, I'm not sure if all of them are here, but maybe.
Yeah, well, I see that Andrea, who's the chair of the higher ed work group, is not here and wasn't at the meeting earlier. And wasn't it Diana was
Diana
taking
Bailey?
Work group, career and work group, and there she is.
Okay.
She just hopped on, I think. Diana, would you like to say something about the progress of your group?
Yeah, we're just going to take a couple minutes each group and just update people. And the notes were sent out to everybody. So go ahead, Diana, please.
That was the minutes from the last meetings of those groups. Yeah.
Yeah. Ainsley sent that stuff out, all the 3 minutes, but I can just give you the sort of like the overview. We spent a lot of time in the work group. This is workforce and career technology, kind of talking about the vision and the mission of our work group, kind of what we wanted out of it. But, and the biggest thing, of course, was facilitating more employment opportunities for returning citizens. We also wanted to see a linkage between what training continues to be offered and those links to employment pathways in the community. So there was a lot of emphasis on that. There was a lot of emphasis too on the workers that are in Maryland Correctional Industries. If there was a way that we could have, the state doesn't hire very many of our own graduates, except for a couple agencies. So there was an effort to encourage other state agencies to hire excellent workers that are both certified nationally or have had great work experience while they were with Maryland Correctional Industries. And then we're meeting again in February so that we can develop more recommendations. I think that we wanted to make sure that the offerings in career and tech ed related to labor workforce needs in Maryland primarily. That's kind of a snapshot.
Good.
And we're going to I see Adam has his hand up. Adam Cummings has his hand up.
Yeah, I just wanted to speak on behalf of Maryland Correctional Enterprises when it comes to this. Our headquarters in Jessup is 21% formerly incarcerated. So I just think that we have women in pre-release who come in and they work in fiscal, they work in accounts payable, they work in accounts receivable. As far as I know, most state agencies have accounts payable, accounts receivable. You know, we have women that are they learn design on AutoCAD. I'm sure that the Maryland school system has many people that work in AutoCAD. I don't want Maryland Correctional Enterprises to be the graveyard for formerly incarcerated people in their career. I want it to be a stepping point. And I think that other state agencies should potentially follow suit with MC. I'm not saying 21%. I'm saying, you know, let's start slow and then pick it up.
Okay. I think it's an excellent point about, you know, state hiring people, setting an example. So, and we should work on that more. But I just want to mention at 11 o'clock on tomorrow, we're having the work groups, the heads of the work groups just meet and talk. And to keep it together and and we have schedules for the upcoming, month to meet. So
Steve, did you say
for the higher ed work group, which I'm a member of, and Andrea Cantora, who runs the University of Baltimore program, is the chair of it and isn't here. I think it was agreed there were several priorities. One is funding, and this is something I've been teaching at JCI and other institutions for 9 years, and I wasn't really aware of this till Andrea told me that the Pell Grants do not fully fund these programs. So I think the University of Baltimore is kind of absorbing the rest of the costs, but it would be great if we could get state funding or some kind of funding to cover the shortfall. I'm not quite sure how big it is, but that seems very important. And I think the other biggest issue is space constraints. At JCI, where I teach, there used to be about 5 classrooms that were used for their programs, but now that Bowie State has come in, they only have UB only has 3 rooms. 2 of them are tiny, and I'm teaching in one this semester with 22 students, and you can barely move in there, but there's really no alternative because there's another class in the bigger classroom. So space is really a factor. And the third consideration was incentives and how to compete with other programs like MCE and vocational programming. Do we have anybody here from the GED, ABE, special ed group who would like to speak? I guess that one doesn't have a head.
It's sort of Alyssa, Danielle, and me.
May I please just interject real quick? I'm
apologize. Sorry. Go ahead. Who's
Adam?
My name's Adam. I'm with MCE. Ann asked a really good question. Most of that is in our annual report, but the community hires, I think that's a really big missing piece. MCE doesn't have any supervision over anybody post-release. So the truth of the matter is that the agency responsible for that information is parole and probation. I know you're familiar with Janet Lane, who unfortunately has retired. She was the director of reentry at MCE, and she has pushed very hard to get that information.
Wait, what? Janet retired?
She's been pushing very hard to get that information from parole and probation. And she has been unsuccessful at that. MCE doesn't have any supervisory authority. So that information we would surely love. That's recidivism data, which is really the most important data that we could collect.
So Adam, I'm already working with MLDS to do that with our population and education. Like if we would need to get approval from MLDS's governing board to add in the MCE workers data so that we can actually see them post-release and their wage data post-release. So, because I can see my education students now.
So you're saying that information shouldn't be kept by parole and probation?
Well, it might be, but they aren't the most accurate to keep that and to get that from. When I can get quarterly wage data and sector where they're working in from MLDS.
We're going to have a discussion on MLDS at one of our next meetings.
Yeah.
We've gotten permission. Daniel's gotten permission to share that report of, we're going to have to be circumspect about who send it out to. We're not going to send it out to anybody but ourselves, but we will be able to talk about this, Adam. And so I would suggest you and Danielle go back and forth with this issue. She may have some good information for you there from what I hear. Okay.
Yeah, we can.
Gordon has
we can
his
talk
hand
about
up.
that. Definitely. But Adam, really quick, because that might be good to know for this group, who is the new reentry person at MCE then? Because that's an important position.
Well, it's Marsha Grover, who has been training with Janet for a little bit now. She was shop manager for mailing and distribution, which I know there's a conversation about Lassie earlier.
Yeah. Okay.
That some of the women at MCE actually handle Lassie requests.
Okay.
Gordon has his hand up next.
Yes.
Yeah, just real quick. I think the concern with MCE is not so much of putting more work on the management of data aspect. I think the issue is more so knowing what positions are available, like how many are available and how many people are actually getting those jobs when they get out. I think that goes a long way to show what is being done with the system. In terms of parole and probation, I don't think any of us care about that because that's not our issue. Our issue is about education. Our issue is about how people are coming out and things that are being offered to them. So I wouldn't rely on the DPP for information dealing with someone's certificates or education. That's not the role. Our role is a little different. I just wanted to put that out
Gordon,
there.
I just have to disagree because I think when you're tying in education, it's important to see, are people getting hired with
Right.
that education, right? I mean, it's, if everybody gets degrees and nobody gets a job, great, we got a bunch of people that have degrees. Well, I mean, what are we talking about? Your people need resources. People need a career to earn money and survive. I mean,
I will tell.
the end of this is very important, and that's how you determine recidivism. That's how we determine if anything's working, right? Are people returning to prison, or are they getting jobs? Are they able to, maintain themselves? So we have to get that information.
I would posit, having been down in Annapolis, sitting through lots and lots of hearings with these various judicial committees, and many of you have too, those questions come up all the time, and they should come up. What is the after effect of people, after all this training? Are they getting jobs? And are they recidivating? Those are the two big ones. If we can't say that, you can't give answers to that, then people say, why do we give you any money? We don't know what you're doing, why you're doing it. You know what you're doing, but we don't know what it's having an effect. So I really, Gordon, I really think we'll be asked, the commission will be asked to comment on that. Maybe if we go to hearings or something or whatever, I would think so. And I would think Renee, representing the delegate, the delegate would probably be very interested in that as well. I mean, you can speak for yourself, but that's my feeling.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm not taking issue saying it's not important and doesn't have any role in what we're doing. What I'm saying is what is being asked here is a record of how many people are coming out of MCE and being hired by MCE. That's not readily available. So I think that's what's the question. How can we get that information and use that in our project? And that wouldn't come from MPC. It wouldn't come from the Department of Parole and Probation. It would come from MCE. That's all I was trying to say.
Well, why do you? I'm just wondering why you say that, because I agree that information is extremely important. But again, MCE doesn't. People don't have to answer us. We could reach out to people. They don't have to respond to us. I mean, I don't understand. Parole and probation, they have to check in with them. It's a very simple form. In fact, MCE sent a 5-question form to parole and probation to have them fill out. And it's basically like, do you have a job? How much are you making? That the responsibility is the people that are supervising people upon release. I mean, we can reach out to people until the cows come home, but they don't have to respond to us.
Okay, well, let's take that under advisement. It's in the notes that it's very important that we talk about how we get data at post release on people.
Okay, we've got a couple of people who John Feaster, you've put your hand down.
Yeah, I was going to offer just some perspective, considering I currently oversee not only correctional education, but also reentry. And at the Department of Labor, we separate the two because the scope is too large to combine the two. I can appreciate the fact that we're trying to tackle all of them, but I often consider whether or not the scope of this commission is creeping. Scope creep is a very real thing, and whether or not this is going to kind of grow to a place that's going to be too hard to make any progress. So I actually understand both Adam and Gordon's perspectives, and certainly as we dig into it, I do have some experience on both sides of that fence, but they are two different sides of a fence, and just wanted to offer that perspective if needed.
Yeah, it's our responsibility to the extent that I think we should probably make a statement about we really see the need for this and hope that. And name the agencies that should be doing this particular thing if it comes up in a report. We are talking about the delivery of programs, K through college, let's say, and we want to put the best delivery system out there. Recommend that, and then that's an end result that we could comment on, but it's not as John says, it's not our major focus here. And Gordon, to that extent, you're correct too. But
And I thought I'd also point out too that even in higher education, just from the community colleges and even private colleges, at the end of the day, they don't always connect the dots on what they provide training in and how much opportunity there is for hire once folks are trained. And that's just in the public market, not even considering the folks that we serve. But
right. Okay.
Okay. Jamel is next.
Yes, ma'am. Can y'all hear me? Good morning.
Yes.
Yes, my name is Jamel Freeman, UMB Master Advanced Standing student, but also a peer lived experience individual, formerly incarcerated as well. So as you know, Stephen, you know, I just spoke on House Bill 22, which actually states the regulations under the current law for release from the division correction have distinction but lack key components. And when we talk about MPC and returning home of individuals and parole, the politics of the incarcerated individual needs are proportionate for it to be in a disempowered group. This is a degree of priority and preeminence. And then we have another bill that's getting ready to come up, which I'm testifying on, is House Bill 0482. And I said this before, which is going to be sponsored by Delegate Harrison, occupational licensing certification, criminal history predetermination review process. And if you go and look in the physical note from last year, composed to it being this year, page 3, lines 8 through 13, last year, it protects the individual over 7 years. They cannot utilize the individual's criminal history. But this year, in the proposed bill, you can. So again, hearing Mr. Adams, hearing Gordon, and hearing everybody else, and John, there's components to this to make this all work for the individuals. Okay, here I am. I'm about to graduate in 4 months, still unemployed. Okay, I'm new in your state. I'm not from this state. And my criminal history has been used against me. Now, not to mention, recently, it took me 1 year just to get my alcohol and drug training certification through the Maryland Department of Health. And I fought that. They did not want to give that to me. Now, individuals coming out from the capacity of incarceration, and be honest with you, don't have them. And I hate to say this like this, but I'm just going to keep it transparent and be honest. A lot of people just don't have the fight in them. They're already coming out. Number one, there's a negative right there. Number two, okay? So, I mean, there's so many things, but I don't want to keep this whole conversation and keep this all about what I'm saying. I'm just asking for you guys to, all right, you want to hear from a lived experience person? I'm telling you, this is what I've been through in the past 2.5 years in the state of Maryland.
Jamel,
I know I've said a lot, and I'm trying to get everything out there, but I advise you guys to go look House Bill 22. Okay, last year it was House Bill. Oh gosh, I'm having.
Doesn't matter. I don't think
it doesn't matter. Yeah.
Yeah, but you no, it does matter because you have to look at the language. It does matter. You have to look at the language composed of what it said last year. Delegate Valentine sponsored the bill because then you'll see it. And only how I knew this because our advocacy class, one of our the professor's assistant, the lobbyist, she caught it. The professor didn't even catch it. And when I was getting ready, and thank God that the bill got postponed because it was actually supposed to be heard yesterday. So now the bill got pushed until the 12th. So now I have to go and redo my testimony.
Okay.
And this is for House Bill 0482. That's from Delegate Harrison. But the other bill and issue I was talking about was House Bill 22. Sorry, I don't mean to sound, I'm from New Jersey, so we get a little,
Okay.
Well,
Thank you,
aggressive,
Jamel. I
you
think,
know,
I think we should move on though, but I appreciate.
Jamel, I just, I'll speak for myself here, but I think what you're talking about is very much at the heart of what we do. We train people and they go out and then they can't get jobs because of a lot of this stuff. And we take this to heart. I mean, I've taken it personally, and a couple of times I've confronted employers myself. So it's not our direct mission to do this, but to point out is another thing that we could talk about in our report, that something that keep in mind that we're trying to put people back to work, and there's a lot of obstacles that we,
Right.
and, you know, I really think that we could make a statement about that, but it's not in our major purview of this commission, unfortunately. But you know, we do take to heart what you're saying.
I just heard what everybody was saying. I don't know, because like I said, again, I'm new to this, new to the committee and new to what you guys are striving to do. So I heard some things, key components of things that Gordon was saying, but along with Mr. Cummings. So that's what made me speak upon that. So I'm just asking you guys respectfully just to look into that. That's all I'm saying.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, we've got Ainsley on the list and then Adam Cummings again.
Yeah, I just really quickly, before we move on from this conversation, I want to ground ourselves in the legislation again. And when it comes to workforce training, our duties as a commission is to evaluate current workforce programs in which incarcerated individuals participate, and the program's effectiveness in training for employment opportunities that result in living wages. So I think we can, talk about what that scope means, but I just want to remind everybody that that's like, this is what we're tasked to do.
Yeah, it's part of the bill. Thank you.
I'm actually gonna bring
Thank you
that
for
up
reminding
too.
us.
So.
I think that really falls short on getting anything tangible done. I've got to be honest with you. And Gordon, just specifically, we have a lot of that information in the annual report, but when you say availability of job positions at MCE, do you mean in the shop, in the headquarters, pre-release? I guess I'm trying to get a better understanding, because some of it may not be in there. It just depends on exactly what you're asking for.
Post-release, Mr. Cummings, post-release, when people get out, you say that you're hiring former MCE people
Yes.
at the
Headquarters.
office, so
Yeah,
post-release.
Yeah, I can get you that. I mean, I don't know if I can give you specific names of people, but I can give you what positions they're in.
Yeah, I don't think the names are the important thing. It's just what's available and are they being filled? And I think that opens the door
Absolutely,
for
yeah.
other agencies to do the same thing, other state agencies. So
I
I do
I would-
applaud you on that.
Oh, thank you. No, I will get a list of the positions that are currently filled by former MCE incarcerated individuals, program participants is what we say.
All right, good. I think that's very helpful, and we do have that is in one of our indirect, responsibilities to take a look at that, as Ainsley pointed out. So we have really quickly on the ABE GED thing. We've come up with a whole bunch of questions which are for data, which were put into the letter to Director Rochelle Rubin, and so we are concerned about, we pointed out some things that we're concerned about that were there were some of the reports that Dollar put out, like, the how we're doing with GED, for example. We don't seem to be rebounding very well. We just need to know why. It went down from the 400s pre-COVID to we're back up to 264. I think was the latest one in 2024. And then we had a couple of years, of course, with COVID that we didn't have any GEDs to speak of. Everything was shut down, but we were concerned about that. We're concerned about, attendance, and want to know data on that so that we can make a better recommendations. One of the things that I wasn't in the notes, but I picked up yesterday of California, is I want to know about professional development opportunities for teachers, because we don't keep current. Teachers are not going to do as effective job, and there's ways to keep current. So, but we hadn't talked about that. I'll bring that up again. And Danielle or Alyssa, how about, you want to speak to the special ed, because we talked about that. And are you still with us, Alyssa?
Yeah. Yes, I'm still here. Yes, I mean, we talked about data related to special education, and Danielle gave us an update on kind of where they are on policies and procedures. I think there was a question, we just don't know the data of how many students sit for the GED. I mean, I don't know the data. How many students sit for the GED, how successful they are. You know, we talked about issues about graduation success rates when students with disabilities are in the community versus on the GED path, and whether that's an issue or concern. It does seem like there's some low hanging fruit there, just kind of on the policies and procedures, which I know is a very heavy lift. And I don't know if MSD provides any support in terms of those policies and procedures. Danielle, maybe, I don't know. But I know that's an area that, you know, would probably be a recommendation in terms of finalizing those and updating those. And I think, you know, we asked generally about special ed. You know, you can ask a whole kind of deeper level of how many students with disabilities, what are their disabilities, where are they located, what's the delivery of instruction look like, do their IEPs get implemented? You know, there's a whole level, which probably, I would imagine, maybe is too deep a dive for this group, but we also ask questions about whether there's been monitoring by MSDE, whether there's been any complaints, special ed complaints involving delivery or compliance. Those are just some of the things that we talked about kind of informally. I don't think those have been put forward in any way to actually formally get that information.
Yeah, and we certainly want to get more on that information. And we had a concern about the high school diploma versus the GED, because Maryland, the GED is a high school diploma, but then people in GED are working towards a high school diploma, and they have if they have a special ed, IEP to get it, and then they go from a juvenile to adult, and all of a sudden they're working on the GED instead of a high school diploma. But there's a whole issue there. I mean, that's a big jump if somebody's finishing up their high school diploma and all of a sudden they have to take the GED test, start from scratch, so to speak. I mean, they have the skills in many cases, but you go through a whole new program. So there are issues like that were brought up that are very important. So I think we could go on. We're half hour into this, and I think it's terrific. I mean, and Jamal, do not get embarrassed if you're still with us. You can ask all the questions and you're not overstepping. So
really quick, so the whole group knows what we had talked about with Alyssa is that we have to update our policies and procedures for all day education, whether it's academic, special ed, and CTE, whatever it might be, every 2 years. Prior to me coming on board, they had not been updated since 2002. So we have 8 of them. I've done all except for one. And that is a special ed, and we're currently working on it. We saved it to last because of how massive it is. We're almost done. We're in the final revision stages with labor. Then of course, labor has their own required handbook for special ed they have to keep for MSDE purposes. It is currently, I was told by a special ed coordinator that they finished that. It is with MSDE for approval right now. MSDE has to come out, and I believe they visit 2 facilities every year, so it rotates, or it might be 5 something to that effect. They visit because they have to do visits, the same facility they have to visit every few years, so they have a rotating schedule of who they go and they visit to do monitorings for special ed. But all that data labor keeps and can definitely, Alyssa, as I mentioned, can go through Rochelle, and John to get that.
Yeah, and I suppose that would be shareable with Alyssa, what's going on, what's in the process, even if we're draft for this purposes of this commission, so that she could get up to speed, because the questions she asks are you're working on them. Okay. So Judith, what else do we have to do for our work group here?
I don't know if there's anything else at the moment.
Except tomorrow we have a meeting at 11 of the chairs of the work group. Just to go over this and making sure we're scheduling our next meetings.
Do we not have, Ainsley, have we scheduled the next meetings of the subgroups?
So the next meetings of, so I have to go through and dig through my calendar real
You don't have
fast.
to list them
Yeah,
all.
there are some scheduled because I've been checking with her back and forth, making sure I have them on my calendar. We're having some scheduling things, some issues with my computer calendar and then the scheduling. So I know we got meetings.
I'm sorry. So the higher education work group meeting is going to be from 1 to 2 p.m. The last Thursday of every month. Same with the career and technology and workforce development group. That is going to be meeting from 9 to 10 a.m. The last Thursday of every month for February and March. But they're going to go to 10 and 11 after the legislative session starts. One of the things we'll have to talk about tomorrow is the scheduling the ABE GED special education work group. I don't believe that we settled on a date last meeting. So we can talk about that tomorrow, but they will also be meeting once a month. Just don't know what day or time yet.
Okay, so it's
Okay,
really
that's
just the
great.
ABE GED special ed group tomorrow.
Yes.
Yes, I'm sorry, I misspoke. I've got that on my schedule. So Alyssa, I hope you can make it.
Yeah, is that at noon or did the time change?
11, I think.
So I think we settled on from 12 to 12:30
Wait a minute.
for tomorrow.
I
I
thought
thought that I was
he
asking.
came
to
back
change
and said something that he can now meet at the original, at the 11
it. I
time.
had asked, I have it for 11.
I have it for 12, so,
Yeah,
But
I
I
have it
could be
to 12
wrong.
too.
Well, and I can make it tomorrow. So let's settle it right now. We're gonna meet at 12.
If we meet at 12, I will be in the car, but I can join by phone. But
I mean, I'm good with 11 as well, either or.
Can we make it at 11, Alyssa?
I can do 11:30. I can't do 11.
Let's do 11:30.
It's only half an hour, so can we do 11:30 to 12?
Yeah, I mean, we don't need a big long meeting. Let's do 11:30 tomorrow, and Alyssa will send out a new invite and clear up what's cloudy in my mind and everybody else's by now.
so 11:30.
11:30 tomorrow. Terrific.
Is that good for you, Judy?
Yeah, that's okay with me.
Okay, terrific. Any questions, any comments, everybody's welcome to make and I don't mind people sharing their experience like Jamal did and say, it's got to be emotional for a lot of this stuff personally for some people.
Jamal. It's Jamal.
So Jamal, and it's got to be personal for you. And I understand that. And don't worry about it. As long as we're respectful to everybody, that's all I want. And we can certainly, give our hearts out.
Dr. Steve, it's just the way I mean, you have to just, do a little bit of view switching here. I'm being the voice for those that are still behind us, that's all I'm doing. And being a social worker advocate and everything like that. I mean, I wouldn't be doing what I'm passionate about if I didn't speak up.
Well, I appreciate that. And I appreciate we have 3 or 4 other members who have had experiences recently or within the last few years who are on this group on purpose. And so I think that's very valuable because we can talk as administrators, providers, people who have been in the system before. We're not the ones who experience it, and we need a dose of reality. And to me, stories about things that don't work when we think everything's working. Otherwise, we're just, it's an academic exercise. We wanted a real exercise.
Correct.
Ainsley and Stephen, can I talk to you once everybody leaves, please, if that's possible?
Of course.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
So what, you wanted to talk to us at the end here?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I think the rest of us could sign off at this point, correct? Are we agreed?
Okay.
Okay. Oh, so,
Thank
yeah.
you so much, everybody. This has really been illuminating and helpful.
See some of you tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yes.
Have a good day, everyone.
Bye.
Okay. Bye now.
Ainsley and Steve, we're still meeting at 11, correct?